Hi everybody, good morning. Crafting Journey here, that Journey chick over on Instagram. Welcome to the Saturday edition of Crafting and Crime Daily. Today, I'm going to be working on cross stitch. Not during the show because it takes too much concentration. This is what I'm going to work on this weekend. Chessie. This is by pattern by Heaven and Earth Design. Heaven and Earth Design. They have the most amazing licensed artwork that, yeah, it's gorgeous. And here are all the colors that go into this. Yeah, I don't want to dump it all out. But I'm getting it ready because, yeah, I'm spending the weekend doing that. 24 hours of cross stitch. Yes, I got my phone so I can time myself. Yeah, but I told you and I promised you a special edition of the Crafting and Crime Daily Show where I tell you the history behind the Alex Murdaugh case. And it's kind of lengthy. Someone's talking about me, right? Or I'm coming into money, one of those things. Okay. So this is a family that goes way back. And my sister actually, last night, she's like, sometimes you say Murdaugh and sometimes you say Murdaugh. Well, it's spelled M-U-R-D-O-U-G-H. So it looks like Murdaugh, but it's pronounced Murdaugh. But if you're from South Carolina, you just say Murdaugh, Murdaugh. And Alex, which is spelled A-L-E-X, Alex Murdaugh, is Alec Murdaugh. So if you're from the Low Country, it's Alec Murdaugh. So sometimes you'll hear me say Murdaugh, sometimes I'll say Murdaugh. Yeah, whatever. So let me tell you, this family has reigned over this area. It's the southern part of South Carolina for over 100 years. It started with Randolph Murdaugh, who opened his law firm in 1910. Then it went to Randolph Jr., Randolph the Third, Randolph the Fourth. Randolph the Fourth and Alex were the sons of Randolph the Third. Both of them went to law school, and they both went into private practice. And by now, and all of these Randolphs had been what they call solicitors in South Carolina. We know them as like district attorneys or prosecutors, but they had been the solicitors of this particular area for 86 years. 86 years. But by then, it came into being that you could not be in private practice and be a prosecutor. So Randolph and Alex went into the family law firm, which at this point was called PMPED, and a bunch of names, PMPED. That firm still exists in this opulent building in Hampton, South Carolina, and has changed their name to the Parker Law Firm because they don't want anything to do with Alex Murdaugh anymore. Yeah. So this family's so prominent that the courtroom where this murder case is going to start on Monday in front of Judge Clifton Newman, who was specially appointed, he was handpicked for this trial. Alex's grandfather, one of the Randolphs, picture was hanging in the back of the courtroom, like this big prominent portrait. So the judge, in his infinite wisdom, ordered that it be taken down for the trial. Good idea. So this Alex Murdaugh, he's got this long list of financial crimes to the tune of about $8.5 million. And everybody's like, where did this money go? What did he do with this money? Because nobody can figure it out. The the judge has appointed a receiver to try to figure that out. Where is this money? So that they can recover some of the money and get it to all of his victims, his financial crime victims. So, and there's also 5 suspicious deaths surrounding Alex Murdaugh. The first one, let me tell you a little bit about Alex. He was born in 1967 and attended the University of South Carolina, where he went to law school. He met Maggie, who was a sorority girl, athlete, very pretty. He marries her in 1993. She gives birth to Buster Murdaugh in 1996 and Paul Murdaugh in 1999. Now, Buster does follow in his father's footsteps and goes to the University of South Carolina to become a lawyer, like Daddy. But in his second year of law school, he gets kicked out for plagiarism. And so he's not a lawyer. This family, very well-to-do. They had a beach house. They had a private island, maybe a couple of private islands. And then they had this huge property they called Moselle. Since then, whoever owns that property has changed the name of it. But Moselle is a 1,700-plus acre property, gorgeous. That's where the murders of Paul and Maggie take place. But first, we're going to talk about these 5 suspicious deaths. Oh my goodness. Now, I do have, I covered each one of these individually in depth, and I'll link the playlist here if you have an interest and you want to go back and listen to some of those more in depth. The first death is the death of Stephen Smith, 19-year-old boy Stephen Smith. That occurred on July 8th of 2015. 19-year-old Stephen Smith, he called his mom and he said, "Mom, I've run out of gas. It's at night. I've run out of gas. I'm going to walk home." And later that night, when he doesn't show up, he's found dead, lying in the road. He was said to have died from blunt force trauma. They called the troopers out to investigate because they're thinking it's a hit and run. But police are finding evidence that it's not a hit and run, that it's a homicide. But the state troopers, they say, nope, it's hit and run. They close the case. Finished. Now, the town gossip is that Stephen Smith was gay and he was having a relationship with Buster Murdaugh. And also the town gossip was that Buster was riding around in his truck with a bunch of other people and that something was held outside the truck and it hit Stephen Smith in the head. And these are all rumors. But South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, they call it SLED, South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED. While they were investigating the murders of Maggie and Paul, something that they came upon while they were investigating those murders caused them to reopen the case of Stephen Smith. Now, we don't know what it is. There's never been any charges filed related to Stephen Smith, but I'm dying to know what they found. Yeah. And what caused them to reopen the Stephen Smith case? Yeah. So, suspicious death number 2 is the longtime housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield. She worked for this Murdaugh family for years. She was like the nanny when the kids were growing up. She was the housekeeper. Alex paid her $10 an hour. Yeah, $10 an hour. That's pitiful. So, allegedly, she has a fall, and supposedly the story is that Alex's dogs were involved, that they kind of swept her off her feet. That's happened to me, so I know it can happen. And then she hit her head. So she gets taken to the hospital, and she dies 3 weeks later from this head injury. So at the funeral, Alex goes up to Gloria Satterfield's sons and says, "Hey, I want you to sue me for negligence. I'm insured. We'll arrange a settlement, and you'll get some money." So, and here's my friend, Corey Fleming. He's a lawyer. He's going to represent you. How about that? Yeah. So where do you think all that money goes? Into Alex's pocket. Yeah. Those sons don't see a dime of it. They have now recovered the money through lawsuits and stuff. But yeah, at the time, Alex made off with the money. And we still don't know what he did with that money. Yeah. All right. Suspicious death number 3. This was on February 24th of 2019. Paul Murdaugh, 19 years old, he gets in the boat with there's 6 kids. They're all about the same age, you know. There's him and his 2 buddies, and all 3 of them have their girlfriends with them, including Mallory Beach. So they go to this oyster roast, and on their way, they go in the boat. They all meet at the Murdaugh property, one of the Murdaugh properties, the beach house, I'm assuming. And they take the boat and they go to this oyster roast. And on the way, they make a stop. They stop at this liquor store, or like a convenience store. Paul uses his brother Buster's identification and buys like 2 thingfuls of beer. And as he's walking out, he holds the beer up in triumph, you know. And so I'm assuming they consumed that while they were at this oyster roast. Then on the way back, they stop the boat. They get out. Paul and one of the other boys that was in the boat, they decide they're going to go into this bar and have a few drinks. Now the other ones, they all hung out at the dock waiting for them to come back. So they go in, they're served alcohol, they have their drinks, and then they leave and they get back in the boat. Now Paul's driving this boat. He's becoming angry, belligerent. He's very intoxicated. He won't let anybody else take the wheel of this boat, and he's driving erratically, and he runs into a bridge, and several of the passengers are ejected from the boat. Everyone manages to survive except for Mallory Beach. Nobody can find Mallory, and her boyfriend was distraught, to say the least. However, they find her body a week later. She had drowned. So there's lots of lawsuits based on this death. Some of them had to be taken to the hospital for injuries. They may have all been taken to the hospital for injuries. But Alex is seen in video surveillance footage at the hospital trying to convince other people that were in the boat that Paul wasn't driving the boat. Yeah, trying to deflect, crazy. So Paul's later arrested and charged with the driving while intoxicated, and interestingly enough, was within days of appearing in court for this boat crash when he's murdered. Then number 4 and 5 are the deaths of Maggie and Paul. Now, by this time, Maggie's getting a clue. She's like, I don't got much money in her bank account. She's contemplating divorce from Alex. It's rumored that they weren't even living together, but he lures her over to Moselle. And on the way, she texts a friend, I know he's up to something. And she gets there. She meets her son, Paul, out at the kennels, the dog kennels. And they are both murdered. And we're going to hear a 911 tape where Alex calls, oh, my wife is dead. And they both died of multiple gunshot wounds to the body from separate weapons. One from a rifle, one from a shotgun. Now, how one person carries that off, I don't know. I've always suspected there's someone else involved. And we have no idea what the evidence is that the prosecutor has against Alec Murdaugh, because it's been very, very hush-hush. So next week, we're going to get a flavor of it. I can't wait for these opening statements. I'm going to be covering them live when they happen, because this is so interesting. Let's see, what have I missed? Okay. 3 days after the murders of Maggie and Paul, Alex's father, Randolph III, he passes away. Natural death. And part of Alex's alibi is that his father was in the hospital and he went to visit his mother, who was home and with a sitter, and they were watching Wheel of Fortune or something, Then on September 3rd of 2021, Alex resigns from the PMPED law firm after they confront him with all of this fraud that he had been carrying out. Then on September 4th, this bizarre incident where he claims to have gotten a flat tire, and someone pulled up and tried to shoot him in the head, and Witnesses say it looked staged. It just didn't appear to be what he said it was. As it turns out, what he was trying to do was he had hired a friend of his, I think his name Eddie Smith, something like that, hired his friend of his to come and kill him so that his son Buster could get his $10 million life insurance. So he and this other guy have been charged with assisted suicide and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud based on that. Alex, after that, he posted bond, and then he gets out and he goes into rehab, and he's claiming that he's had a 20-year addiction to opioids and boo-hoo and woe is me. So he leaves the rehab, and he's promptly arrested for the fraud related to Gloria Satterfield, his housekeeper. And then his bail is denied, and the judge freezes all of his assets. Then on July 14th of 2022, he is indicted for the murders of his son and his wife, Maggie. What? You may want to rewind to hear all of this again, because it's just unbelievable. In the playlist, I include some other mysterious, I go into some of the other fraud that he committed. He has almost 100 charges pending against him in the state court. He has not been charged with any federal charges, but I think those are coming. Those will be down the pike. One of his conspirators in the federal, or in these schemes that he would carry out to take his client's money, has already been convicted in federal court. So I think he'll be up next. I don't know what the delay is. I have no idea. So here's why people are interested. This family has basically, people in this county are afraid of the Murdaughs. They wield a lot of power. They have in the past. And so people are scared of them. So will they be able to seat a jury? Will they be able to seat a jury that the Murdaughs can't get to? That'll be the interesting thing. Yeah. So that is what I wanted to tell you about. So now you have like all the background of what's going to be going on in this murder trial. Now the prosecutor is going to try to get these financial crimes in front of the jury. He wants the jury to hear these as motive for why he killed his wife and son. Because, Alex was having all these issues. He had, all the payouts from all this insurance scams. This money's dwindling away. His wife's got no money in her bank account. She's contemplating divorce because she hasn't got any money anymore. He's got his son's legal battles that are very, very expensive to defend. Not only does he have to get criminal lawyers for his son, but he has to get, lawyers for the insurance part of it, the civil part of it, where where Mallory Beach's family is suing them in civil court for wrongful death. And he's got this 20-year opioid addiction. A lot of stuff piled onto this man's shoulders. Yeah. Interesting. All right. So thank you for watching today. Don't forget to hit that like button. I want to convince him to bake some brownies today. We'll see if he really does it. It's supposed to be snowing here, but all I see is rain so far. I saw last night that the high was going to be 3 degrees. Not true. I don't know where that came from, but it's like 30 something degrees outside. Couldn't walk the dogs because it's raining. Probably snowing everywhere but here. Wichita's such a vortex. Anyway, thank you guys for coming. I'm on to my cross stitch with my friends. I love you all. I'll see you Monday morning for the continuation of Crafting and Crime Daily. I'm going to be covering the Murdaugh case separate videos for just Murdaugh only videos. But Monday I will continue the trial of Mark Jensen, the retrial for the antifreeze murder. Yep. See you then. Bye.